So I saw Wonder Woman yesterday. The big thing about Wonder Woman, like the big question on the internet and the fan base in general was, is Wonder Woman going to be the movie that saves the DCEU? Personally, I don't think it was. I don't think it saved the DCEU. I think it was pretty good. It was all right. There was things about it. I do have a very brief cons list that I'll get into when I get into the cons part of the video, but it wasn't anything amazing. I mean, yeah, it was visually awesome. We'll get into that. The basic plot of Wonder Woman is just the origin story. Where did she come from? You find out all about her homeland, Themyscira, how she's been training to be a warrior ever since she was a child. Then you find out about this story of I guess this never-ending war and how the Themysciran, or I'm sorry, the Amazons, how they have to be ready for this fight with this guy known as Ares, the god of war. And it's basically just a preparation for that fight alone. You find out about the story about how Zeus created man, and man was a mistake, and that's why Themyscira has no men; it has only women. And that's when Diana is a woman, when she's a grown woman, when Gal Gadot's playing her. That's when Steve Trevor lands, Chris Pine, he lands in Themyscira, which I always thought Themyscira was like this otherworldly place. I didn't think it was on Earth, but I guess I was mistaken, because all it is just an invisible island, which you would think there'd be a lot more trespassers there. I mean, people sail around the world all the time. I don't think it would have been that like hidden, because it's on Earth apparently. It just exists like on a different plane of existence, I guess, if you want to call it that. I would think that people just casually go there, but I guess Steve Trevor's the first one, so well, whatever. So naturally, Steve Trevor gets captured because he's a man, which is basically forbidden on Themyscira. One thing leads to the next, and now you're in World War I. That's when Diana has this mission. She has this mission because she's an Amazon to save the world from man's doing, the shitty part of humanity, basically. And so you get into World War I, and that's when two stories, the story about Zeus and Ares, and the World War I story link and all the fighting. And Diana has this mission now to go kill Ares, and that'll just stop the war. And obviously on the way, all the humans, the regular people, are skeptical as fuck about that, because they're like, there's no way that would just end the war. Pros and cons. So let's start with the pros. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman was good. She has a lot more depth to her and range to her in this movie. She gets to exercise a little bit of her emotional side, and also just her curiosity side of her being introduced to regular human life, because she's never left Themyscira. She's never left that Paradise Island, as Steve Trevor calls it. She's never left there. And so when she's introduced to the real world, just regular old Earth, especially World War I, she's asking all these curious questions, which we'll talk about in a minute here. Now, I'll admit, Gal Gadot was pretty good as Wonder Woman. That's what I think. I think Chris Pine as Steve Trevor was perfect. If you have the guy in a room full of women, I think Chris Pine is like the only person that could have pulled that off as well as he did. There's something about him. He just looks like such a man, such a perfect man. You know, he's got the blonde hair, the blue eyes. Not to sound like Hitler's wet dream or anything, but it's just he nailed it. He nailed it. He was all the comedic parts of the movie, with the exception of Gal Gadot's parts. Some of it because of her curiosity, like I said. Chris Pine was perfect. Gal Gadot was pretty good. Chris Pine was perfect. That's what I have to say about that. And also, the ragtag team that they put together, the one in the antique picture that we first saw in Batman v Superman, the ragtag team was pretty funny. I don't remember their names. You had the drunken Irish, I think the Mexican guy, and then the Native American guy. Those three guys, plus Steve Trevor and Diana. They were pretty funny, entertaining. They had some moments in there, and I liked that. They had a good dynamic. You can tell they worked well together. The team dynamic was very interesting. I liked it a lot. They just had good chemistry. I'll just say that. The action was pretty good. There's a con to the action, which I'll get into in a couple minutes here with the cons. The choreography and the cinematography of the action was pretty good. That's all I can say about it. The action in this movie I enjoyed. It didn't look too fake, but it has those parts where it's like, okay, yeah, this is a superhero kicking some ass, a superhero way. So. But in a believable way. So I thought the action was pretty good. One thing that I wish they kept doing was staying on Themyscira. Now I know the movie is supposed to drive her to Earth so that she can obviously become part of the Justice League. But I like Themyscira. Themyscira was gorgeous. That was a big pro in the movie for me. was not necessarily what they were doing on Themyscira. Personally, I thought that was kind of boring. Personally, Themyscira itself, like the location, that was beautiful. I love looking at it just all the time, and especially when like she's in Themyscira and she goes to London and she's like, "This is hideous," and I was like, I agree, especially 1920s London, and you look up and you see all the smog and the smoke and shit. Ugh, fucking gross. Bring back Themyscira. And this last thing on my list that I really liked a lot in the movie was Diana's curiosity. There's just something about the way that Gal Gadot does it that makes it so like, it's just so entertaining to watch Gal Gadot and her beautiful little face, and just, you know, just how cute she is, just not knowing anything about Earth. Like the ice cream scene. That's like a playful tease for what like her character is, how ignorant she is to our life. But I also think, interestingly enough, the movie has a lot of social commentary in it, like her not knowing and questioning like our values and what we do. I thought it was very interesting. Like the one that comes to mind is when her and Steve Trevor are on the boat. She went on to like analyze marriage, where Steve's like, yeah, two people they get together and they swear to love each other till death do each other apart. And Diana's like, well, do they love each other till death till them apart? And he's like, nah, not usually. And she's like, why do they do that? Stuff like that. That's sprinkled all throughout the movie. Why do we do things that we do? I thought it was very unique. It was very creative how they did that. I'm not sure if it's the director's ideas or if it's something in the comic books that we missed out, or that I missed out on. But yeah, I like that part of the movie a lot. Okay, that's all the pros, the noticeable pros that I have for the movie. The cons list. The beginning of the movie is very slow. In fact, I would say either the first act or the first half of the movie is very slow. They have action scenes in the movie, but those action scenes didn't really do it for me. I said most of the action was pretty good. I thought I said most of it right, but the first act or the first half of the movie was very slow. It takes a while to pick up, but when it does pick up, thankfully it does pick up. It picks up quite a bit. It doesn't pick up to the extent that I think I wanted it to, but it still picks up nonetheless. Just the first half of the movie, I think, if you can trudge through it, as far as like how action oriented it was, then I think it'll be fine with the second half of the movie. Like the first half of the movie was about those things that I mentioned about just like the story and just exploring Themyscira and the marriage failure, just little things like that is the first half of the movie. The second half is definitely about the Ares plot and finding Ares and killing him. The con with the action, way too much slow motion, way too much. Like, I thought Zack Snyder had a problem with slow motion, and I thought Michael Bay had a problem with slow motion. This movie, Jesus Christ, there was just way too much slow motion. There's scenes in movies, in any movie, that I think to really emphasize how cool it is, you just leave it at normal speed. There's scenes in this movie especially, you want to emphasize how fucking cool it is to watch Wonder Woman do all the things that she does in this movie. You leave it at normal speed. I think it would have chopped off a lot of the runtime, honestly, and the fight scenes would have been even cooler than what they already were if there wasn't for slow motion. There's just some things they needed to cut back on in slow motion. There was that, and then there was just one major con that I had with the movie, and that is at the end, like the third act of the movie, kind of got a little cheesy for me. Namely with the fight at the end, there was just a lot of cheese to it. I'm not sure how else to put it without spoiling it. I guess we'll talk about it in the spoiler part, but it just kind of got cheesy for me. That's all I could say without spoiling it. So there's that. Those cons, they don't mean shit. I mean, I liked the movie. It was entertaining, but I don't think it lived up to the hype that it got, which wasn't a lot, frankly. It didn't get a lot of hype. Like the movie that stole probably this year's hype is, as far as the DCEU goes, is probably Justice League, or probably Spider-Man: Homecoming, or one of the other several movies like Guardians 2. This movie, I don't think it saved the DCEU. I think it was definitely better than Batman v Superman. I definitely think that. But it wasn't like extraordinary. It wasn't amazing. Sure, it looked cool and the action was cool and Gal Gadot was amazing, and Chris Pine, which we'll never see again probably, was amazing in the movie. As a standalone movie, it was pretty good, but it was not like it wasn't a franchise saver in my opinion. And so with that being said, I'm not going to give it too harsh of a score. I think an 8 out of 10 is probably what it deserves. Just those small things, you know, those things, but they they kept doing those cons that I kept mentioning. Like they kept using slow motion. I guess you can say that they kept being slow in the beginning if you want to say that. Yeah, this movie, solid 8, solid 8. It was a good movie. It was for the most part entertaining. It wasn't like a solid action film, like a superhero film that I thought it was going to be, but it offered good social commentary. I like when a movie does that, or a show, whatever. It was entertaining just watching her get used to society, and when the action was there, it was there. Just cut down on slow motion next time, okay? There isn't much to talk about with spoilers in this movie. Sir Patrick, it's Steve Trevor's superior, him with the mustache. Oddly enough, I don't. At first, I was like, why the fuck did they choose this guy? Why they choose Nigel Thornberry as as Ares? I couldn't picture that at first. But then as he got into it and I saw him in the full blown Ares suit, I was like, you know what? It's oddly a good choice. His voice was a good choice. He didn't have that like, hello, my name's Ares. He didn't have that voice anymore, which I thought was I don't know. It's just I found that he was a good choice in the end. I guess it was a really good choice for Ares. Yeah, they could have chose some big fucking muscular dude, but you know, it was a clever way of disguising who Ares really was, you know. And also, I liked it's not black and white with these superhero movies anymore. It's not like it used to be. Like old comics, the golden age of comics used to be about Superman punching Hitler in the jaw. It's not black and white anymore. It offers like questions about humanity, morality, and what if Ares is right? What if killing all the humans because we're the ones who fucked up the world so badly? When you think about it, it's true. But you kill all of us and let us go to nuclear Armageddon, and the world regrows as the way it was supposed to be. Social commentary like that is what I'm talking about, in addition to the stuff that I mentioned earlier, like the marriage failure. He even offers her to join his side with rebuilding the world the way that Themyscira wanted it to be, or the way that Zeus wanted it to be. You know what I mean? The next big spoiler is that obviously Chris Pine dies. Was that really a surprise to anybody? I mean, we saw it being led up to the whole movie. You know, I was bummed when his character died, when Steve died, but I also kind of expected it. I mean, usually when you time travel in a movie like this, like when you travel almost 100 years actually into the future, that means that obviously his character is going to be dead, but we knew it's not going to be from like old age. Yeah, I was kind of bummed when his character died, but I thought, you know, honestly, I think could have happened, instead of him just shooting the thing, I think he could have found a way. He could have found a way to blow it up, but then like find a parachute. There's a parachute in planes, right? Isn't that like requirement? Isn't that law? I don't know. Maybe back in the 1920s it wasn't, but I don't know. Yeah, I was kind of bummed when his character died, but I saw it from a mile away, so I'm not that disappointed. And then the very beginning and the very, very end of the film was the modern day. So the movie starts off with Diana going into an office. I don't know exactly where. And then the movie ends with her examining the picture, which is how the whole movie starts at the beginning, which is her examining the picture. But there's no real setup for the Justice League. And I guess she was in London while the movie was happening, while like the entirety of the flashbacky part of the movie was happening. And so that makes me kind of curious. I'm like, why isn't she back in like where the rest of the league is? I don't know. So there's no real setup for the Justice League is what I'm trying to get at there, which is not a bad thing. You know, be a standalone movie. Be a standalone movie. That's it for the movie. Yeah, I don't think it saved the DCEU, but you know, it was a good movie. For a standalone movie about Wonder Woman and her origin story and just developing her character for a franchise, it was very good. Very good movie. But did not save a franchise. It's part of a franchise, doesn't save it from the damage that's already been done to it. So, yeah, very enjoyable movie on its own. I liked it. That's all I can say about the movie. Let me know what you thought about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.